Peace, 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 everyone. Peace, everyone. Yusuf Ale here, SPC University. Got a good show for you today. I'm trying to teach everybody and take everybody in the right direction. That direction is called private ordering. Now, anybody can Google this term and see that that is the way you structure yourself so that you can operate outside of government regulation. It is a thing that you've all been looking for the last 40 to 50 years. I think the problem is that a lot of people, they seem to think that the government has wronged them. You know, this is what you hear in the patriot community, that they've been wronged by the government or in some shape, form, or fashion, that they've been abused or some rights have been taken from them. Rights aren't taken from you. Really, what it is, what I have seen from my time in this particular space is that the majority of people do not understand the difference between public and private. So today, I'm going to try to teach you public and private again. Even my students at SPC University who come into the classroom who have been following me for a while, they're still struggling with trying to understand public and private. And I'm going to begin first and foremost by showing you a chart or a case. We're going to look at a case real quick. And I want everybody to read this case. So I'm going to make it available to everyone. I want everybody to be able to see this case. Let me put it on the let's see. Let me see. Yeah, that's it right there. I'm gonna put this on the screen for you. Okay. Okay. All right, before I begin and to go any further, let me make sure that everybody can hear me okay. Where we at right there? Okay, and actually this goes under here like this. I haven't done this in a while. Let me make this smaller. Okay, I think that'll work right there. I think that will work right there. Okay. All right, let me put this on screen so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So I was like, what's he doing? All right. If you're looking at the screen, this is Google Scholar. I use Google Scholar a lot. Google Scholar is a website where you can retrieve a lot of case law for free. A lot of case law for free. It's almost like Google is trying to take out Westlaw and some of the other paid resources. But you can find a valuable amount of case law on this website. So I want you to take this website down. It is called Google Scholar, okay? All right. Now, real quick though, I do want to see one thing real quick. All right. I'm loud and clear. Okay, cool. Audio good. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 All right. How y'all like the look and everything? The place looks good, doesn't it? Well, hey, hey, we're going to another level. That's why tonight you need to be at the webinar. We're having a webinar on the DTC. And so let me talk about that real quick because I don't think y'all really understand where I'm going and the information that I'm presenting to all of you. Okay. This price $297 is going to be the last time you see that. You're not seeing $297 again. It's gonna be $5,000-$6,000 next. It's not, this is the only time you are going to see 297. It's the only time you're going to see 297. I can say that with my chest. Well, maybe it might not be the only time, but it'll be the only time you'll have access to this type of information for 297. Let me see that. So if I were you, I would go over to SPC University, hit the shop tab, spcuniversity.com, hit the shop tab, and join the private ordering webinar tonight. I'm sorry, the private structuring. We're looking at monetization of debt, DTC participation, understanding private banking, real private banking, not the pseudo private banking, the real private banking. You're going to sit down with a real private banker and get tutored, and he's going to offer a mentorship. So if you're interested in the mentorship, we're going to be offering that too. And he will be introducing that tonight during the webinar, the mentorship. Now somebody wants to say the volume is too low. Your volume is low. I'm looking at the levels. Is the volume low, y'all? How about that? I'm about to speak directly into the mic. Let me put this mic up. Okay, how about that right there? I'm going to just speak directly into the mic. How's that? That better? Somebody said, you know, and somebody always say the volume's too low, but then somebody said you can hear you loud and clear. Turn up your cell phone. Yeah, you need to turn up his volume for real, man. I don't know what's wrong with you, man. Y'all, somebody always try to say the volume is too low. They got to find something wrong. They say, yeah, everything looks good, but your volume is too low. I swear, some of y'all. Anyway, let me get back to what I was talking about. I swear, let's get back to this Google Scholar. All right. This is so we're on Google Scholar. This is Google Scholar. So we're going to look at a case that's going to explain to you the difference between public and private. I'm going to let a judge explain it to you because I can't seem, to get through to anybody. I really feel like trust law is the best way to learn it. So I'm going to put in the word private trust in the search, and it's going to give me a return of a lot of private trust cases. All right. And there are various kinds of cases. Some are irrevocable trust, some are revocable trust, some are testamentary trust, some are wills. It's just a variety of different things that, happen to involve some sort of fiduciary relationship. All right. However, if I go to the second page, you'll see a case called Evans versus Newton. All right. Well, this is the case. I think the judges do a very good job of teaching public versus private in this particular case. And let's read it real quick. All right. Now, this was in 1965. And I want all of my people, I'm talking about black people right now, in particular, I want you to really pay attention to this case. And I want you to think about all the times that you picket in protest and you're going to call somebody talking about that, it's racism, or in some kind of way, somebody, some Uncle Tom and everything, because they don't want to get on your victim bandwagon or something like that. All right, that's not the situation. I have to be very educated and have a good civic education, and I'm not going to tie myself or tether myself to stupidity and illiteracy. So right here we have Evans versus Newton. It's the Supreme Court of the United States. It went all the way from Georgia. This is certiorari to the Supreme Court of Georgia. And this is an interesting case because it's a case about racism. So let's read it real quick. Mr. Justice Douglas delivered the opinion of the court. In 1911, United States Senator Augustus O. Bacon executed a will that devised to the mayor and council of the city of Macon, Georgia, a tract of land which, after the death of the senator's wife and daughters, was to be used as a park and pleasure ground for white people only. The senator stating in the will that while he had only the kindest feeling for the Negroes, he was of the opinion that in their social relations, the two races, white and Negro, should forever be separate. This is Senator Augustus O. Bacon. Let me see. He's a United States Senator. Let me see who this dude was. United States Senator. Actually, let me get back. Let me finish. Okay, so this is Augustus Bacon. He wanted to keep the he gave a park he gave some property to the city of Macon, Georgia. If you're in Georgia, you know what Macon is. He had one condition that only white people could use it. And he took it and he gave it to them in trust. It was under a testamentary provision of his trust. So he bequeathed to the state of Georgia a tract of land. You can have this for a park and pleasure ground, but can't no niggers come on in there, all right? Want any niggers, okay? He had only the kindest regards for the Negroes, though. But let's keep going. Thereupon, individual members of the board of managers of the park brought this suit in a state. Wait a minute, is that it? Yeah. Thereupon, individual members of the board of managers of the park brought this suit in a state court against the city of Macon and the trustees of certain residuary beneficiaries of Senator Bacon's estate, asking that the city be removed as trustee and that the court appoint new trustees to whom title to the park would be transferred. The city answered, alleging it could not legally enforce racial segregation in the park. The other defendants admitted the allegation and requested that the city be removed as trustee. Now, anytime you see the word city, state, municipality, those are synonymous terms with public, all right? You're going to be seeing those words a lot in here, but they all mean public. You're going to teach you about public and private. So right now we have a private trust with public trustees, so there's a contradiction. Anybody in the public is beholden to the Constitution for the United States of America. If you're private, you're not. I know a lot of y'all like to say the Supreme Court, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is, but it is a document that forms government and restrains government. It has nothing to do with private individuals. So understand that the Constitution is public law, not private law. It rules in the public, not in the private. Contract rules in the private. So, several Negro citizens of Macon intervened, alleging that the racial limitation was contrary to the laws and public policy of the United States and asking that the court refuse to appoint private trustees. There we go. We start picking it and protesting. But we don't understand that land is in a private trust. And on the private side, if you want to be racist, if you want to be prejudiced, you got every right to do that because it's a protected right under the Constitution. It's called freedom of association. That is a private right that the Constitution protects, just like contract is a private right. Private property cannot be taken without due process of law and just compensation. That protects private rights. Only time you cannot discriminate is in the public if they are receiving public funds. So here go to several Negro citizens under Rule 24, which is intervention, who don't understand nothing that I'm saying. Just like today, they don't understand it. Let me just say this real quick. White people are supposed to help white people. Black people don't want to have a problem helping black people, okay? They supposed to help white people. If a white man go out and create a business, he's supposed to hire his own people. Now, if he was receiving public funds, he cannot be biased. He cannot discriminate. Like the Masters. In my class last night, we just went down to Augusta, the golf club. They are private. They just let Tiger Woods in there. They have every right to do that. The Ku Klux Klan is a private organization. If they don't want any niggers in there, they don't have to. The Black Panther organization, if they don't want any white people in there and they're a private organization and they're not receiving government funds, I don't see how something like the Black Lives Matter or whatever, communist organizations, admitted communist organizations, Black Panthers and Black Lives Matter, funded, I think Black Lives Matter was funded by George Soros. I don't know who Black Panther organization was funded by. But several Negro citizens of Macon intervened, alleging that the racial limitation was contrary to the laws and public policy of the United States and asking that the court refuse to appoint private trustees. Thereafter, the city resigned as trustee and amended its answer accordingly. Moreover, other heirs of Senator Bacon intervened, and they had the defendants other than the city ask for reversion of the trust property to the Bacon estate in the event that the prayer of the petition were denied. In other words, if the trust cannot accomplish the intent of the settler, the trust dissolves, and the property, the raise of the trust goes to the beneficiaries, which are Senator Bacon's relatives. Which, by the way, if you want to shepherdize this case and see where it went, that's exactly what ended up happening. So the black people, you didn't get to use the land at all because Senator Bacon, his wishes, because that is the purpose of a trust, to fulfill the intent of the settler. He had every right to do this. The only screw up they made is they appointed public trustees to a private trust, and public trustees are beholden to the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. They cannot discriminate. I'm giving you a lesson in public and private right now. Now, Georgia court accepted the resignation of the city as trustee. Oh, let me put my social media up so I can see the comments. These comments over here. Oh, you can't see that on the screen, can you? Nah, you can't see that. All right, what we got? Let's roll out. Okay. All right, cool. All right. So the Georgia court accepted the resignation of the city as trustee and appointed 3 individuals as new trustees, finding it unnecessary to pass on other claims of the heirs. All right, we feel like we resolved it. We got rid of the public trustees and appointed private trustees. Issue should be over. However, people are going to still keep on complaining about that. On appeal by the Negro interveners, the Supreme Court of Georgia affirmed holding that Senator Bacon had the right to give and bequeath his property to a limited class. Did you understand that? He had a right to be racist. You have a right to be racist in the private. The Supreme Court has said this in about 3 different cases. We have already ruled as much as we can on racism, so you keeping talking about racism is not going any further. You're as free as you're going to be in this country, black man. It's up to you to start getting together with your own people and you start to build something for yourselves. You're not getting any help from the Supreme Court anymore. You need to educate yourself in civics and understand the difference between public and private and set up your own affairs. You have the right to do that. If somebody want a neighborhood and it is a neighborhood and it's a gated community and they got an agreement and they only want white people in there, they can do that. Likewise, you as a black person, if we want a gated community and we ain't nothing but millionaires, we only want black people in there, we can do that. Long as we're not taking any public funds. I'm going to let Justice Scalia educate you real quick. I'm going to let Justice Scalia educate you. Justice Scalia got into a conversation with a senator. The senator's name is Dianne Feinstein. She has passed away. She was a Jewish senator. And that is significant. I want everybody to listen to this. All right. Where is it at? Justice sign. Here it is right here. It's Scalia. I want to ask you something. Scalia about to take her to school. I want y'all to listen to this real quick. All right, just listen. This is education in public and private. All right. All the people out there crying about where they at.
America is represented by the distinction of this great court. And now, I want to ask you something about the 14th Amendment, and if both of you could respond to it. It's simple. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Is a woman included within that definition?
Yeah. A woman's a person. I think that's well established.
Yeah, the issue is not whether a woman's a person. The issue
You know
is
where I'm going.
the issue is what constitutes equal protection.
Yes, all right. Are women included?
Yeah.
Of course they're included.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you.
But does equal protection mean that you have to have unisex toilets? I mean, that's the kind of question you have to get into.
This is your quote, Mr. Justice, in California. Certainly, the Constitution does not require discrimination on the basis of sex. The only issue is whether it prohibits it. It doesn't. Nobody ever thought that's what it meant. Nobody ever voted for that. If the current society wants to outlaw discrimination by sex, hey, we have things called legislatures, and they enact things called laws. So why doesn't the 14th Amendment then cover women?
The 14th Amendment, Senator, does not apply to private discrimination. I was speaking of Title VII and laws that prohibit private discrimination. The 14th Amendment says nothing about private discrimination, only discrimination by government.
Yes.
So, I see what you meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is a U.S. Senator of the United States of America, that is Democrat, I might add, who has been sitting in this seat for 30 years, and she don't understand the 14th Amendment. Now, I want you to think about that, about all these people out there in these echo chambers, y'all out there included, who are listening to this, all you black people picketing and protesting and mad because somebody won't get on the train with you, so they got to be a coon and all of this. But I just happen to be educated. America is a free country. Do you know what that means? It means that you are required to do things for yourself. It means that the government wasn't put here to assist you to do a damn thing. That didn't come into play until 1933 under the New Deal, under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when you got social security numbers and you all decided to get jobs. Which is not a right either, by the way. So back to our case, Evans versus Newton. Back to our case. Now that we have gotten educated by a Supreme Court justice, watching him educate a U.S. Senator on public and private about the 14th Amendment, where he clearly states the 14th Amendment says nothing about private discrimination, only discrimination by government. So in other words, if you're getting government funds, that makes you beholden to the Constitution, just like it does in trust law. Okay, if you're taking public funds, you can't discriminate either. But if you're not taking public funds, you can do whatever you want to do in this country. The problem is so many of you are taking public funds that you don't know that. It's only a small percentage of people who are separated themselves from government, because every one of you out there got a social security number and is accepting some sort of benefit and privilege, which under the Ashwander rules, which is number 6, if you're taking the benefit and privilege, you lose rights. What do you think is happening with a woman when she's on welfare and they tell her she can't have a man in the house? That's an example of someone, when you accept benefits and privileges, now the government can tell you what to do. I'm schooling you on public and private, because a lot of you seem not to, a lot of y'all want to get benefits and privileges from the government, but you don't understand the consequences. A PPP loan has consequences. A student loan has consequences. A FHA loan has consequences. Tonight, we're talking about private funding, private banking, private money. Let's keep going. Let this judge keep schooling you. The Georgia court accepted the resignation of the city as trustee and appointed 3 individuals as new trustees, finding it unnecessary to pass on the other claims of the heirs. On appeal by the Negro interveners, the Supreme Court of Georgia affirmed holding that Senator Bacon had the right to give and bequeath his property to a limited class, that charitable trusts are subject to the supervision of a court of equity, and that the power to appoint new trustees so that the purpose of the trust would not fail was clear. And that's true. Equity would not allow a trust for failure for want of a trustee. That's a principle of that's an equitable principle. And trust is a right solely enforceable in equity. You know, y'all like to say exclusive equity. You know, I coin your own phrase. But a trust is a right solely enforceable in equity. The case is here on a writ of certiorari. There are 2 complementary principles right out the box. We talking about principles. Not something none of y'all want to study. These 2 principles complement each other. Just like one of the 7 laws of the universe, polarity, there are 2 sides to everything. Something you can't argue. Up, down, in, out, right, left, night, light, dark, hard, soft. Public, private. They complement each other. There are 2 complementary principles to be reconciled in this case. One is the right of the individual to pick his own associate so as to express his preferences and dislikes and to fashion his private life, by joining such clubs and groups as he chooses, i.e. public-private ordering. You have to form groups. And a guy told me this when I first got into this. He says communities of people who do this stuff. It ain't single. Ain't no one person supposed to be trying to claim something. What y'all trying to do, I don't know one person can do it. It has to be a group. The other is the constitutional ban. Okay, you see they went straight the other principle, Constitution, read public, ban, and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment against state-sponsored, read public, racial inequality, which of course bars a city, read public, from acting as a trustee under a private will that serves a racial segregation cause. Okay, a private golf club. Think of Augusta. A private golf club, however restricted to either Negro or white membership, is one expression of freedom of association. But a municipal, read public, golf course that serves only one race is state-sponsored activity, indicating a preference on a matter as to which the state must be neutral. What is private action and what is state action is not always easy to determine. Now he's going to talk about what happens when you mix the 2, when you mix public and private, because a lot of y'all are confused on that. Conduct that is formerly private may become so entwined with governmental policies or so impregnated with a governmental character as to become subject to the constitutional limitations placed upon state action. The action of a city in serving as trustee of property under a private will, serving the segregated cause is an obvious example. This is why I can never be a Democrat. It's not because I just woke up and one day and say, oh, you know, I want to go over here and get with the white people and start being with Master. It's because the Democrats push welfare. That's benefits and privileges. And that means they are taking away your rights. The United States of America wasn't built on welfare. That didn't come into effect until 1933. Freedom the word democracy is not in the Constitution. Nowhere. The word republic is in Article 4, Section 4. We're guaranteed a Republican form of government. You need to understand what that is. Republican form of government means that if the rights of the individual are respected. Democracy means mob rule. You don't believe me? Let's look at the military training manual that the government was training the military with in before 1933, and the Democrats are the one that had it removed in 1930. Let's look at it real quick. It's called the TM 2000-25 Military Training Manual. And we get on page 91. Here it is right here, citizenship. Everybody should read this. This is a citizenship manual because the military is what? Responsible for protecting you against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So there was a point where we educated everybody on this. But today there is no civic education. And that's what's wrong with everybody. That's why everybody's mad about everything, because 90% of the population is ignorant. 50% of them read on the 7th grade level. Let's see what they're saying right here. You think you have some entitlement right to welfare. You don't. You don't. Welfare is not a right. You got to understand the difference between a right and a benefit and a privilege. Benefits and privileges can be taken, and there's nothing you can say or do about it. If they want to take Social Security tomorrow, there's nothing you can say. Don't worry, though. If you live in your life depending on Social Security, you got some issues. I.e., you need to come to this class tonight, and you need to start thinking big. Link is in the description. Page 91. Let's read this today. We're going to read this together today. This is all government documentation. This ain't no AI stuff or nothing. This is case law and government documents. Let's look at this real quick. This document right here teaches you the difference between democracy, autocracy, and a republic. Let's look at it real quick. Let's look at it. Government autocracy, what is 91? We're going to page 91. Okay, right here. You see right here? Right here. This is a comparative analysis. This is paragraph 120. Comparative analysis. The following comparative analysis shows the principal characteristics of the 3 forms of government. This is what they teach the military. Autocracy. Authority is derived through heredity. People have no choice in the selection of their rulers and no voice in the making of laws. Results in arbitrariness, tyranny, and oppression. Attitude toward property is feudalistic. Attitude toward laws that the will of the ruler shall control regardless of reason or consequences. Democracy. Here's democracy. A government of the masses. Authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression results in mobocracy. Attitude toward property is communistic, negating property rights. Attitude toward law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it be based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse. What do you see in there? Passion, prejudice, and impulse. Without restraint or regard to consequences, results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, anarchy. This is what they were teaching. This is back in 1930. This is how they were talking about democracy. Do you know who created democracy? I think you need to go and look at Russia, communist Russia and communist China. Because they got you thinking that it means freedom. Y'all hear that word democracy, you got y'all trained to hear democracy and think freedom. When that word is nowhere in the Constitution. How you gonna get protected by the word democracy and it's not in the Constitution? Answer me that, riddle me that. Let's keep going. Republic. Authority is derived through the election of the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Attitude toward property is respect for laws and individual rights and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude toward law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence with a strict regard to consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within its compass. Avoids the dangerous extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. They said the danger that democracy is an extreme. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. Is the standard form of every government in the world. Russia was a republic. United Soviet Socialist Republic. Why is it a communistic country now? China was a republic, the Republic of China, but they communists now. America was a republic. We're headed toward communism now. Why? Do you understand what do y'all understand what Marxism is? Let me read this to you. Do you understand what I'm gonna just read one thing out of Marxism with y'all ride with me, because all this stuff y'all talking about Coons and stuff like that, you're not educated. That's why you can't sway educated people. Let's look at the Communist Manifesto. Let's look at this real quick. Karl Marx, Jewish. I keep pointing out because you're going to notice something. There is an underlying theme that's going to be in all this. I hate to say that, but you can't ignore it. I got to point it out. I was like, damn, why is all these people seem to be of the same race? They're the ones created democracy. They're the ones that convinced you of the civil rights in the 1960s. George Soros, Jewish, funded Black Lives Matter. Every organization, every black HBCU. Let's look at this real quick. If you go in here right here, private. Let's look at what the Communist Man, because y'all ain't never read the Communist Manifesto, so you don't know. All right, what does this say about, why would you want to join this right here? If you are any kind of person that is interested in making money or getting rich or anything like that, how in the world could you be a part of this? Right here it is right here. This is what the entire communism is all about. The French Revolution, okay, right here. I'm reading this paragraph right here. This is Karl Marx, the Communist Manifesto. So when you hear people out there saying that they Marxists, communists, socialists, I want you to understand why they are calling them that. They're calling them that because they're moving for government to intervene and take over things, and that's not how the United States of America operates. The United States operates with the exclusion of government. We don't want government in our business. Smaller government. So the French Revolution, for example, abolished feudal property in favor of bourgeois property. The distinguishing feature of communism is not the abolition of property generally. Oh no, we're not trying to get rid of everybody's property. It says, but the abolition of bourgeois property, the wealthy people's property. We got to get their property. But modern bourgeois private property is the final and most complete expression of the system of producing and appropriating products that is based on class antagonisms, on the exploitation of the many by the few. That's why I don't get into that victim shit. Because when they pushing that is socialism. The rich people got all the money. No, you can get it too. If you apply yourself and do that, you're supposed to celebrate when you see somebody get wealthy. Wealthy people are the one provide you your jobs. Yes, you should go and watch Atlas Shrugged. Ayn Rand, okay, the Jewish woman philosopher made the movie. What was that about? That was about, if you don't like what we're doing and everything, we'll just remove ourselves and leave you to your own devices. And we'll pick out, and that's what they're doing right now because AI is taking over everything. They're removing you out of their space. You want to bitch and complain. They don't need you anymore. We got AI now. But modern bourgeois private property is the final and most complete expression of a system of producing and appropriating products that is based on class antagonisms, on the exploitation of the many by the few. In this sense, the theory of communists may be summed up in a single sentence: the abolition of private property. What? What? Wait a minute. Do you understand that this is the overthrow of the Constitution? Because the Constitution is to protect private property. And you got somebody right here talking about that's what communism is. The government taking over and the elimination of private property. This is subverting the Constitution. And you want me to ride with that? This ain't about Donald Trump. The people making you look like victims on purpose. That's been their game plan ever since they brought democracy into existence. And do you understand that one of the pillars of communism also is atheism? Because if you're going to believe in this, if you're going to believe that man is your savior, you got to denounce God. Let me go to the chat real quick. What time is it? I got 8 minutes. I got you ready for this webinar tonight. So what does one do if they did not apply for a social security card for your child? Everyone gets mad at me because I don't claim him on my income tax. Well, I mean, you did the right thing. I didn't get any I didn't get a social security number for my son purposely, and I didn't even know any of this because I knew they could track you with that social security number, and I didn't see the reason for getting them one because the social security number is for you to get a job with. I didn't get my social security number until I turned 18. They weren't giving social security numbers when I was born. And at the hospital, they will try to press you for it. I'm like, no, I don't need it. I say he can get it when he gets older if he decides to do so. But still, that's not going to completely absolve you from the public. See, y'all got this thing where y'all think that paperwork is what puts you in jurisdiction. What puts you in jurisdiction is conduct. All law is dealing with conduct, not your goddamn declarations. Me, I'm alone and broke and a fool, so I'm out, but I have business ideas. I will always post them in the comments on this channel just out of respect for you. So if you got a business idea, it's nothing if you don't put it into effect. You got to take action. What is the name of the business? Think of a name. Take the next step and then go and incorporate it. Take the next step and go and open a business bank account. Then you off to the races. It's not hard. It's very easy. It doesn't matter if you're in check systems. When you open up a business bank account, they don't look at none of that. They don't care how many bounce checks you had in the past or anything like that. This is a totally separate entity that you are putting into effect. You are not your corporation. Your corporation is a person. Person only means is a device used to recognize rights, duties, liabilities in the public. If you don't have personhood in the public, you don't have no rights in the public. Y'all trying to get rid of the personhood and you try to shoot yourself in the foot. Because you don't know what a person is. Because you've been indoctrinated into the straw man theory for the last 50 years. By farmers, roofers, and ranchmen. How would I teach my children to move in the public, send them to college, and teach them how to do business? That's why I teach my children. You teach your children how to move in the public by teaching them how to conduct business. The public is about business. What do you not see in the public that's not a business? What's in the public that's not a business? I live in downtown Dallas. Everywhere I see is businesses. I'm surrounded by businesses. You either have a business or you work for someone who has a business in the United States of America. You're either building your own legacy or you're helping someone else build their legacy in the United States of America. You either think for yourself or somebody else does the thinking for you. You either have a plan or you're going to follow somebody else's plan, but you're going to follow a plan. You don't have no right for the public to educate. Public education is government-funded education. That's the government. That's the Rockefellers instituted that. There's a reason why they do not teach you how to get rich and have your own business in public education, because that's how it was designed for. It was designed to accommodate employees when they come and work at jobs in the public. And the government is the ones that gives the curriculum. My aunt, she was a vice regent in the state of Georgia. She sat down and explained all this to me. She said, we got to have all our directors to put into colleges from the government. They will tell us what they need in the public. I had another wealthy gentleman when I was in Hawaii on the beach. I was trying to talk about education. He said, look, he said, college education is so they can learn how to communicate with the elite. I didn't like that because I consider myself the elite. I consider myself the elite individual. I don't know what he was talking about. Because I don't have the concept of somebody above me. What does that mean? It says, so what does one, okay, it goes on. When I went to the bank, they disrespected my lien and made me put my social on my corporation papers to make a bank account. You should have walked out. I don't understand what you're talking about, because all they ask you when you open up a bank account is for the EIN number of the corporation. I mean, ask you for the EIN number of the corporation usually. I don't know. Can my daughter get a driver's license without an SSN? There are provisions for that. You have to ask the Social Security Administration the DMV what they are. I know one of them is if she's never been issued a Social Security number, she definitely can get one without one. But if you've ever been issued a Social Security number, you must disclose it. Same thing with the passport now. But that's not what's getting jurisdiction over you anyway. The Social Security number is just evidence of something. It doesn't constitute the matter if you haven't done anything. I just told y'all that the law looks at conduct, not documents. That's another thing that y'all got confused in the echo chambers. Y'all paperwork bandits. You're not addressing conduct. You think all you have to do is declare something and you can keep acting the same way and something has fundamentally changed. That's not how this works. How would you, let's see, it says, when I went, what is this right here? Business is everything. Conduct, it said, if I start a business for my son, okay, what is this? When I went, it says, me, I'm alone, broke. He said, me, I'm alone and broke, a fool, so I'm out, but I have business ideas. I always, first of all, can you stop the self-deprecating language to yourself? I mean, you talking about all this, right? Why would you talk to yourself like that? That's the first thing we need to change is your self-talk. Listen, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. It takes just as much energy to be positive as it does to be negative. Make the choice. And if she didn't understand, what is this right here? Absolutely right. I can't see the screen because I'm listening to you. Everyone needs a chart you added on public and private. That saved me. I said it saved it. You know what? Let me see if I got that public and private chart because you are absolutely correct. Because that chart, and I made this chart when I was in jail. You know, when I first came into this information, I'd been doing it for about 2 years, and I'd been in court. I'd been before the judge. I defended myself in front of the judge. I'd got some confidence for myself. I was convinced I was doing the right thing. I was going into the law library every day. I was helping a lot of other inmates with their cases. I'm looking at indictments and things like this, and I'm getting an education by helping other people too. Well, anyway, so I got moved down to this place down in Florida, the Max down in there in Florida. The Max down there in Florida, it's right across the street from the courthouse, and the courthouse is shaped like a ship. That made me think about David Wynn Miller when he was talking about it was a ship in dry dock. And I'm like, damn, that looks just like a ship in dry dock. And just to show y'all, here's a picture of it. Now I'm looking down at this, I'm like, wow, that looks just like a ship. It's made just like a ship. So I'm gonna put this on the screen and y'all tell me what you think. Is this a ship? You see this right here? It's probably on my it's probably on my Instagram page too. No, that's somebody else. But I'm the one who put that. See, that's the Miami Federal Building. Looks just like a ship in dry dock. And this is where the Admiralty, everybody's talking about is Admiralty jurisdiction and so forth. But I actually saw this, and they have the grass cut like water. You can only see it from the sky. And so that looks exactly like a ship in dry dock, doesn't it? Okay, so, so people were, trained this is Admiralty jurisdiction, but when I went down there, I ran into an old guy. His name was John Taylor. I always say his name out of respect because I remember his name. His name was John Taylor. And, he met me when he came to meet me. I was a new guy, and he said, yeah, everybody's talking about you. They say you're pretty sharp cat. I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I said, I'm all right, whatever. Because he was like the resident legal guru in there when I came in. So, of course, he wants to meet me. So we start talking, and he said, do you know what an antinomy is? And I pronounced it antinomy, but he said antinomy. And I said, yeah, that's a contradiction in law. And it messed him up that I knew the answer so fast. He was like, wow. He said, you are sharp. I'm like, yeah. But what it was is I just got through researching the word because I was looking at a document called One Man Out, and the word was in there. And it was just a coincidence. I just run across it when he asked me. So it was fresh in my memory, So he said, so we started chopping it up, and he said, let me see your paperwork. So I gave him my paperwork, And he had been doing this 16 years, and I'd only been doing it for about 2 years at this point. And he said, he looked at my paperwork and he threw it to the side. He said, you need to start copying other people's paperwork. And I just felt bad because I had copied somebody. I was copying documents out of these books that these other guys had written. And the first thing in my mind that I thought was, dog, I got to write this myself. I was like, can I do that? Can I write this myself? So he kind of looked at, he threw it to the side. You need to stop copying other people's paperwork. And then he said, you're a sharp brother, but you don't know any law. That's what he said to me. So I got offended by that because, like I offend all of you all the time. I talk to y'all greasy on purpose because I want y'all to go out and try to prove me wrong. I know, because this is the kind of thing that no matter how much you don't like me, no matter how much anything, you can't prove me wrong. Okay, I got to get rid of it. I got to get ready to get out for here, y'all, because we got a webinar at 7 o'clock. And thank you, because I will start talking and running my mouth. But I'll end the story real quick. To end the story, we used to eat every morning together. And every morning he'd come in, and first thing he'd say to me, you're a sharp brother, but you don't know any law. And I'd get mad, because he was just jabbing at me. And then I think on the third or fourth day, he did it again. He said, you're a sharp brother. But he wouldn't tell me nothing. He said, you're a sharp brother, but you don't know any law. And something inside of me said, shut up and listen. I was about to say something slick, but it was a voice. It was just a voice that popped. I heard it loud, clear as day. It said, shut up and listen. And I did. And I said, all right, man. What is it? What is it? I don't know. He started teaching. The first thing he did was draw me that chart of public and private. And public and private is God's law, man-made law, what they call positive law, which switches off to substantive law and procedural law. And from procedural law, you get remedial law. And from substantive law, you get public and private law. And public law is constitutional law, criminal law, tax law, administrative law, public international law, and private law is property law, contract law, tort law, status law, family law, private international law. Okay, I got that in my mind now, but I see that chart in my mind. If you can see that chart in your mind, you can understand the law. But if you can't see that chart in your mind, when somebody says something to you, you don't understand the law. And that's why all of you are struggling with public and private, even my students who are in my class. That is the majority of the people in this country. Look, I got to get off now because we got to get ready for the webinar tonight. But I would strongly suggest that you come out to the webinar tonight because I have a very special guest. I haven't conducted a webinar in about 5 years. So to make me do a webinar, it had to be a special individual. You've heard me talk about this individual in the past. All the way back to 2015, you probably heard me talk about him. Some of you have been following me for that long. I'll tell you about a cat. I was to say, man, I know a cat on these bonds and everything. I said, all this stuff y'all talking about, I'm like, nah, man. I was like, I know a cat that's cold with this thing. I seen him. I got a chance to walk with him and look at this stuff, and he would show me things and try to teach it to me. And it's not the things that y'all talking about. I can say that. So tonight, a special guest, Mr. Stephen Brewer, 7 o'clock. Hit the link. Go to SBC University. Hit the link and register. There's a few seats left. Got time. You got 20 minutes to get butts in seat. A lot of people signed up. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Hey, look, I got to get out of here right now, but I will come back later on. We're going to finish this discussion about public and private, all right? Peace. I'm out.